Welcome back. Coinology. The 1995 D1 cent coin may look small and ordinary at first glance, but when you slow down and truly study it, you begin to realize that this humble copper-colored piece carries an entire world of history, mystery, emotion, economics, and powerful stories inside its tiny surface. This is not just a penny that once passed through the hands of millions of Americans. This is a symbol of an era, a moment in United States minting history, and for some collectors, a potential treasure that represents dreams of life-changing value. When people hear rumors and headlines about pennies worth unbelievable amounts of money, sometimes figures like $98 million get mentioned, and while such numbers create excitement and curiosity, they also push us to look deeper, understand the facts, separate myths from reality, and discover why certain coins become legends while others quietly remain sleepers waiting to be rediscovered. The 1995 D penny was struck at the Denver Mint, a facility with a long and respected history in American coin production. The small D mint mark on the obverse side beneath the date is more than just a letter, it is a signature of where the coin was born. Denver pennies are known for strong strikes and high production numbers, and in 1995, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents to meet everyday circulation needs. During this time, the American economy was stable, cash transactions were common, and the penny still played a significant role in daily commerce, from grocery stores to gas stations to school lunch lines. Every single one of these pennies carried the same basic purpose, yet over time, tiny differences, errors, conditions, and varieties began to separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. In terms of weight, the 1995 D penny follows the modern Lincoln cent standard. It weighs approximately 2.5 grams because it is made primarily of zinc, with a thin copper plating on the outside. This composition change had already taken place in 1982, when the mint shifted away from solid copper pennies due to rising metal costs. Even though it looks copper, the core is zinc, which plays a major role in how the coin ages, how it reacts to moisture, and how collectors preserve it today. A perfectly preserved 1995 D penny will feel solid in hand, balanced, and smooth along the edges, while circulated examples may show scratches, dullness, or zinc corrosion if the copper plating has been compromised. The coin symbol, or more accurately the symbolic meaning of the 1 cent coin, goes far beyond its face value. The Lincoln cent symbolizes unity, humility, and everyday American life. Abraham Lincoln, whose portrait appears on the obverse, represents honesty, perseverance, and leadership during one of the most difficult periods in U.S. history. His presence on the penny reminds people that even the smallest denomination can carry the image of one of the nation's greatest leaders. The words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1995 form a powerful combination of faith, freedom, and time, freezing a moment in history on a disc smaller than a coin flip. The design of the 1995 D penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial Series, which ran from 1959 to 2008. On the obverse, Lincoln faces to the right, his expression calm and thoughtful. The sculpting of his hair, coat, and facial features is subtle but meaningful, and collectors often examine these details closely to judge strike quality. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, with tiny columns and architectural details that challenge the limits of coin engraving. If you look closely, you can even see a small statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a design detail that fascinates new collectors when they first discover it. The phrase "E pluribus unum" arches above, reminding viewers of unity from many, while United States of America and 1 cent complete the message. Now this is where the story becomes truly interesting, because while most 1995 D pennies are common, the world of coin collecting is not just about normal examples. It is about anomalies, rare errors, die varieties, and coins that somehow escaped the system in an unusual state. Certain pennies from the mid-1990s have gained legendary status because of dramatic errors, such as off-metal strikes, double dies, broad strikes, or coins struck on the wrong planchet. In rare cases, pennies have been struck on experimental metals or foreign coin blanks, instantly turning a 1 cent piece into a 6-figure or even 7-figure rarity. These are the types of discoveries that fuel headlines, viral videos, and rumors of pennies worth millions. When people talk about market values reaching unbelievable figures like $98 million, it is important to understand that such numbers usually represent extreme hypothetical scenarios, private speculative discussions, or exaggerated online claims rather than confirmed public sales. However, the reason these claims exist at all is because history has shown us that coins once considered worthless can later become priceless. Famous examples like the 1943 copper penny or the 1955 doubled die penny prove that a single minting mistake can change everything. This knowledge keeps collectors searching through rolls, jars, and inherited collections, hoping that the next legendary discovery could be hiding in plain sight. The 1995 D penny also benefits from being part of a transitional era in modern coin collecting. During the 1990s, fewer people saved pennies in pristine condition compared to earlier decades, because they were seen as less important and less valuable. At the same time, grading standards became stricter, and professional grading services gained more influence in the market. As a result, a 1995 D penny graded at the highest mint state levels, such as MS-69 or theoretically even MS-70, becomes extraordinarily rare. These top-grade examples can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, not because the coin itself is rare in quantity, but because perfection is rare. The history of the 1995 D penny is also tied to the broader debate about the future of the 1-cent coin itself. Even in the mid-1990s, discussions were happening about whether the penny was still economically practical. Production costs, inflation, and changing consumer habits all played a role. This adds an extra layer of historical importance to coins from this period, as they represent a time when the penny's role in American society was already being questioned, yet it continued to circulate widely. Collectors today look at the 1995 D penny not just as a piece of change, but as a potential canvas for discovery. Every detail matters, from the sharpness of Lincoln's profile to the clarity of the mint mark, from the color of the copper plating to the alignment of the strike. Even microscopic doubling on letters or numbers can transform an ordinary penny into a sought-after variety. This is why experienced collectors use magnification, proper lighting, and careful handling when examining these coins. The market value of a standard circulated 1995 D penny remains very low, often just face value, but the gap between common examples and extraordinary ones is what makes this coin so fascinating. One moment it is a forgotten cent in a drawer, and the next moment, under the right circumstances, it becomes the center of attention at an auction or in a collector's showcase. This dramatic contrast fuels imagination and keeps the legend of valuable pennies alive. As we move deeper into this story, it becomes clear that the 1995 D penny is not just about money, it is about curiosity, patience, and the human desire to find hidden value where others see nothing. It teaches us that history is not always loud or obvious, sometimes it is small, quiet, and copper-colored, waiting for the right eyes to notice it. This is only the beginning of the journey into the world of the 1995 D 1-cent coin, and as we continue, the details, mysteries, and possibilities will only grow more intense and more fascinating. As the journey continues deeper into the world of the 1995 D 1-cent coin, the story begins to shift from surface-level facts into the hidden layers that truly excite collectors, historians, and dreamers alike. Every coin has two lives. The first is its life in circulation, passing from hand to hand, buying small things, being ignored and forgotten. The second life begins when someone stops, looks closer, and asks the question that changes everything: what if this is not just an ordinary penny? The 1995 D penny lives exactly at that crossroads between common circulation and extraordinary possibility. During 1995, the Denver Mint was operating at massive production capacity. The United States needed billions of cents to fuel daily transactions, vending machines, parking meters, and cash registers. Machines struck blanks at incredible speeds, and while modern minting technology is highly precise, it is not perfect. This is where errors are born. Tiny misalignments, worn dies, clogged grease, or planchet mix-ups can all create coins that are technically mistakes, but in the eyes of collectors, they are miracles. The faster the machines run, the higher the chance that something unusual slips through unnoticed. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1995 D penny is the potential for doubled die characteristics. A doubled die occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives multiple impressions that are slightly misaligned. This causes visible doubling in letters, numbers, or Lincoln's facial features. While the most famous doubled die pennies come from earlier decades, modern doubled dies do exist, and finding one from 1995 D would instantly elevate the coin from pocket change to a prized collectible. Collectors carefully examine the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date for signs of doubling, knowing that even subtle examples can command serious premiums. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly aligned during the strike, leaving part of the design missing and part of the blank visible. An off-center 1995 D penny with a clear date and mint mark can be extremely desirable. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more visually striking the coin becomes. These are the kinds of pieces that stop people in their tracks because they look obviously wrong, yet perfectly authentic. Another category that fuels big money stories is wrong planchet errors. Imagine a 1995 D penny struck on a planchet meant for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin. The weight would be different, the color might be unusual, and the sound it makes when dropped would immediately raise suspicion. These coins are incredibly rare because multiple failures must occur in sequence, but when they do appear, they can sell for tens of thousands or more depending on uniqueness and condition. This is where the imagination begins to stretch toward extreme valuations, because a one-of-a-kind error has no direct comparison, allowing the market to set astonishing prices. The condition of the coin plays a massive role in its value story. Most 1995 D pennies were heavily circulated, meaning they show wear on Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and coat, as well as flattening of the Lincoln Memorial steps. However, coins that were pulled from mint sets, rolls, or saved immediately after release can survive in near-perfect condition. At the highest levels of grading, where even microscopic flaws matter, population numbers drop dramatically. A single-point difference on the grading scale can mean the difference between a $10 coin and a $1,000 coin. Color also matters deeply. Copper-plated zinc pennies are categorized by color: red, red-brown, and brown. A full red 1995 D penny indicates minimal oxidation and excellent preservation. These bright red examples are far more desirable than dull brown ones, even if wear levels are similar. Collectors often pay strong premiums for red coins because they represent freshness, beauty, and care. Over time, the supply of red examples naturally decreases, making them even more appealing. The emotional side of penny collecting cannot be ignored. Many collectors began their journey by searching through pocket change, inspired by stories of rare finds and massive values. The 1995 D penny is exactly the type of coin that fuels this passion because it is close enough in time to feel familiar, yet old enough to carry mystery. People remember the 1990s, the music, the culture, the daily routines, and holding a penny from that era creates a powerful connection between past and present. When the market discusses extreme figures like $98 million, it is often tied to the idea of the ultimate rarity, a unique error, a historically significant piece, or a coin connected to a major minting anomaly. While no publicly confirmed sale places a 1995 D penny anywhere near that figure, the reason such numbers are even mentioned is because the coin market has proven again and again that value is not limited by face value. It is driven by demand, story, scarcity, and imagination. A coin that checks all those boxes can defy logic. The 1995 D penny also sits in an interesting psychological space for investors. High-end collectors and investors are constantly looking for the next undervalued area of the market. Modern coins with rare errors are increasingly attractive because many were overlooked at the time of issue. As older classic coins become unobtainable for average collectors, attention shifts forward in time. This shift slowly pushes modern rarities higher and higher in value. Every scratch, every die crack, every tiny detail on a 1995 D penny becomes a clue in a larger investigation. Was this coin struck early in the die's life or late? Was the die polished too aggressively, removing details? Was grease trapped in the die, causing missing letters? These questions turn a simple coin into a puzzle, and solving that puzzle is part of the thrill. As collectors continue to search, study, and share discoveries online, the legend of the valuable penny grows stronger. Social media videos, auction results, and collector forums all contribute to an environment where one extraordinary discovery can ignite global interest overnight. The 1995 D penny, common as it may seem, lives quietly inside this storm of possibility, and as this story unfolds further, it becomes clear that we are not just talking about metal and money, we are talking about time, chance, and the powerful human instinct to search for meaning and value in the smallest places. The deeper you look at the 1995 D 1-cent coin, the more it begins to look back at you, asking whether you are willing to see beyond what it appears to be. This is still not the end, because the deeper layers of rarity, market psychology, and collector obsession are yet to be fully explored. As we move even further into the depths of the 1995 D 1-cent coin, the conversation naturally shifts toward the hidden mechanics of the coin market itself, because a coin does not become legendary based on metal alone, it becomes legendary through belief, competition, and the stories people tell about it. The penny is the smallest unit of American currency, yet it has consistently produced some of the largest legends in numismatic history, and the 1995 D cent exists within that powerful tradition. One of the most important forces shaping the value of any coin is population scarcity, not just how many were minted, but how many survive in a particular condition or variety. Billions of 1995 D pennies were produced, but how many survive without wear, without corrosion, without plating blisters, and without handling marks? The answer becomes smaller every year. Zinc core pennies are especially vulnerable to environmental damage, meaning time itself slowly reduces the supply of high-quality examples. This silent destruction adds pressure to the market, pushing collectors to act before the best pieces disappear forever. Another factor that elevates interest in the 1995 D penny is the role of professional grading services. When a coin is submitted, authenticated, and encapsulated, it gains a layer of legitimacy and trust that raw coins simply do not have. For modern pennies, grading at the highest levels is brutally strict. Even the tiniest flaw can prevent a coin from achieving a top grade. This creates a situation where a handful of elite specimens sit at the top of the population reports, commanding intense competition whenever they appear on the market. Collectors are not just buying copper and zinc, they are buying rank, prestige, and bragging rights. The psychology of auction dynamics also plays a critical role. When two or more collectors decide they must have a particular coin, logic often gives way to emotion. Bidding wars can drive prices far beyond expectations, especially when the coin is unique or tied to a compelling narrative. A 1995 D penny with an unusual and visually dramatic error, certified and heavily promoted, could become the center of such a battle. This is how ordinary coins enter the realm of extraordinary prices, step by step, sale by sale. The idea of a penny reaching values discussed in the tens of millions is rooted in this very phenomenon. History has shown that when a coin becomes symbolic of something larger, whether it represents a minting accident, a transition period, or a once-in-a-lifetime survival, the market responds in unpredictable ways. Wealthy collectors often seek pieces that no one else can own, and uniqueness has no ceiling. The more people talk, speculate, and dream, the higher the perceived value climbs. The 1995 D penny also benefits from its position within the Lincoln cent timeline. It is close enough to the end of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse era to be associated with its legacy, yet far enough from the beginning to represent maturity and refinement in minting techniques. This middle ground position makes it appealing to collectors who build complete date and mint mark sets, as well as those who specialize in modern errors and varieties. Another layer of fascination comes from die deterioration and late-stage die varieties. As dies wear down, they can develop cracks, chips, and unusual textures. These features can create dramatic visual effects, such as raised lines, extra metal blobs, or distorted letters. A heavily cracked die 1995D penny can look almost alien, transforming a familiar design into something entirely new. These coins are tangible evidence of the immense pressure and stress involved in mass production, and collectors prize them for their raw authenticity. The sound, feel, and even smell of old coins play subtle roles in the collecting experience. A freshly struck penny has a sharp metallic scent, while older circulated examples carry the quiet history of pockets, drawers, and time. Holding a high-grade 1995D penny can feel like holding a moment frozen in 1995, untouched by the decades that followed. This sensory connection deepens emotional attachment, which in turn fuels willingness to pay more. Market narratives also influence value. When influential collectors, dealers, or content creators highlight a particular coin, attention follows. Videos showcasing rare pennies, articles discussing overlooked varieties, and forum posts sharing new discoveries all contribute to a growing echo chamber. The 1995D penny, when featured in such discussions, becomes more than a date and mint mark. It becomes a topic, a theory, a hunt. This collective focus can elevate demand rapidly. The role of inheritance and rediscovery is another powerful driver. Many significant coin finds happen when old collections are revisited, estates are settled, or forgotten jars are opened. A roll of unsearched 1995D pennies discovered decades later could contain pristine examples or rare errors that instantly change perceptions about availability. These moments remind collectors that history is not static, it can resurface at any time. Even the controversies and debates surrounding value claims contribute to the mystique. Skeptics challenge exaggerated numbers, while believers argue that the market has no limits. This tension keeps the conversation alive. Every argument, every counterpoint, adds another layer to the legend. The 1995D penny thrives in this environment because it sits at the intersection of commonality and possibility. As this exploration continues, it becomes increasingly clear that the true power of the 1995D 1-cent coin lies not in its metal content, but in its ability to inspire imagination. It invites people to look closer, to question assumptions, and to believe that something extraordinary can exist in the most ordinary form. The journey is far from over, because the final layers of collector behavior, long-term market evolution, and the future of the penny itself still remain to be uncovered. As the story flows into an even deeper and more reflective phase, the 1995D 1-cent coin begins to represent something larger than a collectible. It becomes a mirror of how society assigns value, how memory works, and how the passage of time can transform the smallest object into a symbol of enormous possibility. This penny was born into a world that did not see it as special, yet decades later it stands at the center of discussions filled with hope, speculation, and ambition. The long-term evolution of the coin market shows a repeating pattern. Coins that are ignored in their own time often become the focus of intense interest years later. In 1995, almost no one was saving brand new pennies with the idea that they might one day be rare. They were spent, dropped, scratched, and forgotten. This widespread neglect created the conditions for future scarcity in high-grade examples. The fewer people who cared at the beginning, the fewer perfect survivors exist today. This is one of the great ironies of modern numismatics. The 1995D penny also exists in the shadow of technological change. The mid-1990s were a turning point when digital payments were slowly beginning to emerge, even though cash still dominated everyday life. Coins from this era mark the transition between a fully cash-based society and a future where physical money would slowly lose its dominance. This context gives the 1995D penny an added layer of historical importance, because it represents a moment before major economic habits began to shift. Another fascinating dimension is the role of storytelling in determining value. When a coin is linked to a powerful story, whether real or speculative, it gains emotional weight. A hypothetical narrative about a unique 1995D penny error escaping the mint, being discovered years later, and becoming the only known example of its kind can capture the imagination of collectors worldwide. Once that story spreads, the coin's identity changes. It is no longer just a penny, it is an event, a discovery, a legend. Collectors often talk about the hunt as much as the prize. Searching through rolls of pennies, examining each coin under magnification, and slowly building knowledge is an experience that connects people across generations. The 1995D penny fits perfectly into this tradition because it is accessible. Anyone can look for one, which keeps the dream alive. The idea that something so small and common could potentially hold extraordinary value is deeply motivating. The economics behind extreme valuations also deserve attention. When numbers like $98 million are mentioned, they often reflect theoretical ceilings rather than realistic expectations. These figures represent what could happen if a coin were proven to be unique, historically significant, and desired by multiple ultra-wealthy collectors. In such cases, the price is not based on metal or face value, but on exclusivity and competition. The coin becomes a trophy, and trophies are priced according to desire, not logic. Another critical factor is the shrinking availability of untouched coins. Zinc-based pennies deteriorate more easily than older copper coins. Once the copper plating is compromised, corrosion can spread quickly. This means that even coins stored away can degrade over time if not properly preserved. As decades pass, truly pristine 1995D pennies become increasingly rare. Even though the original mintage was enormous, the role of education in collecting cannot be overstated. As more people learn how to identify errors, varieties, and grading nuances, the market becomes more competitive. Knowledge turns into power. A collector who understands the subtle differences in die markers or strike quality can spot opportunities others miss. This ongoing education cycle ensures that coins like the 1995D penny remain relevant and continuously re-evaluated. The emotional attachment to pennies also plays a unique role. Unlike high-denomination coins that few people ever handle, pennies are familiar. People grow up with them, count them, save them in jars, and sometimes inherit them from parents or grandparents. This familiarity creates a personal connection that can amplify interest and demand. When a penny becomes valuable, it feels like a shared victory, a reminder that anyone could get lucky. Speculation, while risky, is another driving force. Some collectors and investors intentionally seek out modern coins with potential for future recognition. They understand that today's overlooked penny could be tomorrow's headline. The 1995D penny, with its modern date and potential for rare varieties, fits neatly into the speculative mindset. As time moves forward, the penny itself faces an uncertain future. Debates about eliminating the 1-cent coin continue, and if the penny were ever discontinued, interest in existing cents could rise dramatically. Coins from the final decades of production would likely gain increased attention, and the 1995D penny would be part of that historical narrative. At this stage of the journey, it becomes clear that the 1995D 1-cent coin is not defined by a single value or a single story. It is defined by layers, by possibility, and by the collective imagination of those who study it. Each passing year adds another chapter, another perspective, another reason to look again. And even now, there is still more to uncover, because the deepest questions about legacy, permanence, and the future of money itself are still waiting just ahead. As we continue forward, the 1995D 1-cent coin begins to feel less like an object and more like a living witness to time, quietly observing decades of change while remaining physically almost unchanged. This contrast between stability and transformation is one of the most powerful reasons why coins captivate the human mind. The penny does not speak, yet it tells stories to those who are willing to listen closely. One of the most compelling ideas surrounding the 1995D penny is the concept of delayed recognition. History repeatedly shows that true significance is often realized long after creation. At the moment this coin was struck, it was simply fulfilling a mechanical purpose, moving along a conveyor of production, identical to millions of others. No one at the mint paused to consider that one of these cents might one day be discussed in terms of extraordinary value. This lack of foresight is precisely what creates future rarity, because significance is rarely planned. The role of chance cannot be ignored. A single decision, such as someone choosing not to spend a roll of pennies, or a cashier placing a fresh coin into a drawer instead of circulation, can alter the future of that coin forever. The 1995D penny owes its potential survival in high condition to thousands of tiny, random human actions. These actions form invisible pathways that separate ordinary outcomes from extraordinary ones. Another layer worth exploring is the relationship between scarcity and attention. Coins become valuable not only when they are rare, but when people care about that rarity. A unique 1995D penny unknown to the world has theoretical value but no market impact. The moment it is discovered, authenticated, and shared, it enters a new reality. Attention acts like oxygen, feeding interest, competition, and ultimately price. This is why documentation and visibility are so critical in the modern coin market. The idea of authenticity is central to everything. In a world where counterfeits exist, trust becomes priceless. Professional authentication transforms a claim into a fact. If a 1995D penny were ever to be linked to a major mint error or unique variety, its certification would be the foundation upon which all value is built. Without that trust, even the most spectacular coin remains a curiosity rather than a treasure. Collectors often speak about coins as time capsules, and the 1995D penny fits this description perfectly. It captures a specific year, a specific place, and a specific set of economic conditions. Holding it today connects the present to a moment when the world was different, yet not so distant as to feel unreachable. This closeness adds emotional weight, making the coin feel personal rather than ancient. There is also a philosophical dimension to the penny story. The smallest denomination challenges our perception of worth. Society often equates value with size or immediate utility, yet coins like the 1995 D-cent prove that meaning and potential can exist independently of face value. This lesson resonates far beyond numismatics, touching on broader ideas about patience, observation, and the hidden richness of ordinary things. The collector community plays a vital role in shaping destiny. Forums, clubs, shows, and online platforms create spaces where knowledge is exchanged and discoveries are celebrated. When someone posts images of an unusual 1995 D penny, the collective expertise of the community comes into play. Opinions are shared, theories are debated, and consensus slowly forms. This collaborative process is part of what makes coin collecting a living. Evolving field market cycles also influence perception. During times of economic uncertainty, tangible assets like coins often receive increased attention. People look for items that feel permanent, historical, and resistant to inflation. Even modern coins can benefit from this shift in mindset. The 1995 D penny, as part of the long-running Lincoln Cents series, carries a sense of continuity that appeals to those seeking stability. The storytelling aspect continues to grow as each year passes. Every new article, video, or discussion adds another thread to the narrative. Even skepticism contributes value, because debate keeps the coin relevant. The tension between belief and doubt creates energy, and energy sustains interest. The 1995 D penny thrives in this space of ongoing conversation. As collectors look toward the future, many ask not what the coin is worth today, but what it could represent tomorrow. Legacy becomes the ultimate question. What will future generations think when they look back at the coins of the late 20th century? Which pieces will stand out as symbols of transition, of overlooked potential, of quiet endurance? At this point in the journey, the 1995 D 1-cent coin stands as a reminder that value is not fixed, it is discovered, negotiated, and imagined over time. Each passing year reshapes its context, and each new perspective adds depth. And still, the story continues forward, because the final chapters about destiny, ultimate recognition, and lasting significance are yet to be written. As the narrative stretches further, the 1995 D 1-cent coin begins to exist not only within the boundaries of numismatics, but also within the broader flow of culture, memory, and human behavior. By this stage, it becomes clear that the coin's importance is not defined by a single moment, but by accumulation of time, of stories, and of belief layered one upon another. One powerful aspect that continues to shape the destiny of the 1995 D penny is generational transition. Coins often gain attention when they pass from one generation to the next. What was once everyday money for one generation becomes a historical artifact for the next. Children who grew up in the 1990s are now adults, and for them, the 1995 penny represents childhood, simplicity, and a world before constant digital presence. Nostalgia is a strong force in collecting, and it quietly drives demand in ways that charts and statistics cannot fully explain. Another critical element is the transformation of information access. In earlier decades, knowledge about coins was limited to books, magazines, and local clubs. Today, a single discovery can be shared instantly across the globe. High-resolution images, videos, and expert commentary allow collectors everywhere to participate in evaluation and discussion. If a remarkable 1995 D penny were discovered, its journey from obscurity to fame could happen in days rather than decades. This speed magnifies impact and accelerates market response. The concept of rarity itself evolves over time. At first, rarity may be defined by low mintage. Later, it becomes defined by survival rates. Eventually, it is defined by desire. The 1995 D penny has already passed the first stage and is moving through the second. As zinc pennies continue to deteriorate, the number of collectible quality examples decreases. Over time, this natural attrition reshapes the market landscape. Sometimes dramatically, the idea of a coin as an investment versus a passion also becomes more pronounced at this level. Some individuals are drawn purely by potential financial return, while others are motivated by history and beauty. The most powerful markets are formed when these motivations overlap. A 1995 D penny with a compelling story, strong eye appeal, and documented rarity could attract both camps simultaneously, creating intense demand. Another subtle but important factor is the authority of recognition. When a major grading service, auction house, or respected numismatic institution highlights a specific coin, it gains credibility and visibility. Catalog listings, featured sales, and expert commentary all contribute to a coin's perceived importance. Recognition acts as a signal to the market that this is something worth attention. Without it, even extraordinary coins can remain undervalued. The emotional investment collectors place in their searches cannot be overstated. Many spend countless hours examining coins, learning diagnostics, and refining their understanding. When someone finally discovers something special, the emotional payoff is immense. The 1995 D penny, because of its accessibility and potential, offers this emotional journey to anyone willing to look closely enough. There is also an ethical and historical responsibility tied to preservation. Coins are artifacts of human activity, and preserving them in good condition ensures that future generations can study and appreciate them. Proper storage, handling, and documentation become acts of stewardship. A well-preserved 1995D penny today could become an important reference piece decades from now. The conversation around extreme valuations continues to serve a symbolic role. Numbers like $98 million capture attention not because they are likely, but because they challenge assumptions. They force people to reconsider what they think they know about value. Even if such figures remain theoretical, they energize discussion and keep the search alive. At this stage, the penny begins to feel almost philosophical. It embodies the idea that meaning is not inherent but created. A coin does not declare its importance, people do. Through collective interest, study, and imagination, something ordinary is transformed into something extraordinary. As this long exploration unfolds, the 1995 D1 coin stands as a quiet invitation. It invites curiosity, patience, and respect for detail. It reminds us that history is often small, easily overlooked, and waiting to be rediscovered. And even now, as we move forward, the final dimensions of its story, involving ultimate legacy, future rediscovery, and long-term cultural memory, still lie ahead, waiting to be explored. As the journey approaches an even deeper and more contemplative stage, the 1995 D1 coin starts to feel like a symbol of patience itself. It reminds us that time is the most powerful force in numismatics. Coins do not rush toward greatness, they wait. Decades pass quietly, and only later do questions begin to form about what was once ignored. This slow unfolding is what gives the penny its quiet strength. One of the most overlooked elements in the story of the 1995 D penny is consistency. Unlike rare gold coins or commemorative issues that were meant to be special from the beginning, this penny was meant to be ordinary. It was designed to be identical to billions of others, and yet within that uniformity lies the possibility of deviation. Even the smallest difference, a shifted die, a microscopic crack, a plating flaw, can turn sameness into uniqueness. This tension between uniform production and accidental individuality is at the heart of why modern pennies remain so fascinating. The passage of time also changes how people relate to objects. What feels modern today will feel historical tomorrow. The 1995 D penny already sits in an interesting middle ground, not ancient, not new. It belongs to a generation that remembers payphones, handwritten receipts, and cash-heavy transactions. As society moves further into digital systems, physical coins from this era will feel increasingly tangible and meaningful. They will represent a world that future generations know only through stories. Another powerful influence is the idea of rediscovery. Many important coins are not found once, but multiple times in stages. A coin may be noticed as unusual, then forgotten, then later re-examined with better knowledge and technology. Improved imaging, better understanding of die varieties, and more comprehensive databases can all bring renewed attention to coins that were previously dismissed. A 1995 D penny sitting in a collection today could be reclassified tomorrow based on new insights. Human imagination plays a major role in sustaining interest. People are naturally drawn to the idea that something small and overlooked could change everything. This is not just about money, it is about hope. The penny becomes a symbol of the unexpected, a reminder that opportunity does not always announce itself loudly. This emotional resonance keeps collectors engaged even when the odds are long. The act of searching itself becomes meaningful. Sorting through coins teaches observation, discipline, and respect for detail. It slows the mind in a fast-moving world. For many, the 1995 D penny is not just an object to be evaluated, but a reason to pause, focus, and connect with history in a hands-on way. This personal experience adds depth that no price guide can measure. Market evolution continues to add layers to the story. As new collectors enter the field, they bring fresh perspectives and different tastes. What one generation valued for rarity, another may value for design, condition, or historical context. The flexibility of interpretation ensures that coins like the 1995 D penny can be appreciated in multiple ways over time. This adaptability helps sustain long-term interest. The question of ultimate worth remains intentionally open. Value is not a fixed destination, it is a moving target shaped by culture, economy, and collective belief. When people discuss extreme valuations, they are often expressing belief in possibility rather than certainty. The conversation itself becomes part of the coin's legacy, shaping how it is perceived and remembered. There is also a quiet humility in the penny's existence. It does not demand attention. It does not shine like gold or carry high denomination authority. Yet it survives, endures, and accumulates meaning through sheer persistence. This humility resonates with many collectors, who see in the penny a reflection of enduring value that is earned over time rather than declared. As this long exploration continues, the 1995 D1 coin stands as a reminder that history is not always written in grand gestures. Sometimes it is written in small circles of metal, passed through countless hands, waiting for someone to stop and truly see it. And even now, with so much already considered, the final understanding of what this coin represents, economically, emotionally, and culturally, still remains just beyond the horizon, patiently waiting for the next chapter to unfold. As we move into an even more reflective and almost timeless phase of the story, the 1995 D1 cent coin begins to stand as a quiet monument to endurance. Long after trends fade and technologies change, the penny remains physically present, unchanged in size and purpose, even as the world around it transforms. This endurance is what allows its meaning to grow with time, layer by layer, interpretation by interpretation. One of the most profound ideas connected to the 1995 D penny is the way memory attaches itself to objects. Coins absorb human experience without recording it directly. They pass through countless lives, transactions, and moments, yet remain silent witnesses. The penny from 1995 may have been used to buy candy, given as change, dropped on sidewalks, or saved unknowingly. Each possibility adds invisible weight to its existence, making it more than metal. The future perspective is essential here. What feels ordinary today will feel precious tomorrow simply because it survived. Survival itself becomes a form of rarity. As fewer pennies are used in daily life and more are lost, damaged, or discarded, those that remain intact gain a kind of quiet importance. The 1995 D penny, surviving decades into a changing economic landscape, becomes evidence of continuity. Another layer is the way value narratives evolve. Early collectors focus on obvious features, mint marks, dates, and visible errors. Later generations begin to value subtlety, context, and symbolism. A coin's story becomes just as important as its physical attributes. The 1995 D penny benefits from this shift because its story is intertwined with a transitional era in modern history. The idea of permanence versus impermanence also plays a role. Paper currency wears out quickly and is replaced, but coins endure. This durability creates a sense of trust and reliability. Even when their purchasing power diminishes, coins remain physically stable. The penny's continued existence becomes a statement about resilience in a world of constant change. Collectors often talk about moments of realization, the instant when an object shifts from ordinary to meaningful. For some, that moment comes when they learn about minting processes. For others, it comes when they discover a rare variety or understand grading standards. The 1995 D penny offers many such moments, each opening a new door of understanding. There is also a communal aspect to the penny's journey. People across different countries, cultures, and generations can hold the same type of coin and share a connection through it. This shared experience gives the penny a unifying quality. Discussions, debates, and shared discoveries create a sense of belonging within the collecting community. Speculation continues to function as a creative force. It encourages people to imagine possibilities beyond current knowledge. While extreme valuations may remain theoretical, they push the boundaries of how value is defined. They invite people to think beyond face value and consider uniqueness, narrative, and emotional impact. In this way, speculation keeps the field dynamic and forward-looking. The act of preservation gains new meaning at this stage. Keeping a coin safe is no longer just about protecting potential value, it is about respecting history. Proper storage, documentation, and careful handling become expressions of appreciation. A well-preserved 1995 D penny becomes a gift to the future, a message that someone cared enough to protect it. As the story stretches toward its later chapters, the penny begins to feel almost symbolic of time itself. Small, circular, and unassuming, it moves quietly through years, accumulating meaning without demanding attention. It teaches patience and observation, reminding us that significance often grows slowly. At this point, the 1995 D1 cent coin stands not as a conclusion, but as an open-ended narrative. Its ultimate place in history has not yet been decided. Each new discovery, each new generation of collectors, adds another sentence to its story. And as long as people continue to look closely, to question, and to imagine, the penny's journey will continue, carrying its quiet legacy forward into the unknown. As we enter this later stage of the journey, the 1995 D1 cent coin begins to feel almost timeless, as if it exists outside the normal flow of beginning and ending. By now, it is no longer simply a coin from a specific year, but a vessel carrying layers of meaning built slowly through attention, curiosity, and belief. The deeper one travels into its story, the clearer it becomes that the penny's true power lies in continuity. One of the most striking realizations at this point is how silence adds value. The 1995 D penny did not arrive with fanfare. There were no announcements, no special packaging, no immediate excitement. Its quiet entry into circulation allowed it to blend into daily life, unnoticed. This silence created space for future discovery. Coins that shout their importance often peak early, but coins that whisper can grow endlessly in significance. Time reshapes interpretation. As years pass, people begin to ask different questions. Instead of asking what the coin could buy, they ask what it represents. The 1995 D penny represents persistence in a world that increasingly favors speed and disposability. It reminds us that something small can endure simply by existing long enough to be noticed again. The idea of rarity becomes more philosophical here. True rarity is not always about numbers. It can be about experience. How many people have truly studied a 1995 D penny with intent? How many have held one and thought deeply about its journey? This kind of rarity cannot be measured, yet it adds to the coin's mystique. The fewer people who look closely, the more meaningful the act of looking becomes. There is also a quiet tension between permanence and fading relevance. As inflation rises and purchasing power changes, the penny's practical role diminishes. Yet this very decline enhances its symbolic importance. Objects often gain cultural weight when their original function fades. The 1995 D penny begins to shift from tool to artifact, from currency to memory. Another layer emerges through comparison. When future collectors look back, they will compare pennies across decades. Differences in metal composition, strike quality, and design philosophy will tell a broader story about economic priorities and technological capability. The 1995 D penny will stand as a marker of late 20th century minting, representing efficiency, scale, and consistency. Human behavior continues to shape destiny. People save what they love, ignore what they do not, and later regret what they overlooked. This pattern repeats endlessly. The 1995 D penny sits right in the middle of this cycle, ignored by many, valued by a few, and slowly rediscovered by those who come later with fresh eyes and new questions. The imagination remains an active force. Every time someone wonders whether a simple penny could be extraordinary, they are participating in the coin's evolution. These thoughts, shared and repeated, form an invisible network of belief that sustains interest across time. Even skepticism plays a role, because it sharpens inquiry and deepens understanding. At this stage, the penny almost feels like a lesson rather than an object. It teaches that value is not always immediate, that patience can reveal hidden layers, and that attention itself is transformative. When something is truly seen, it changes, not physically, but in meaning. As this long narrative approaches its final movement, the 1995 D1 coin stands quietly, unchanged in form, yet profoundly altered in perception. It has traveled from obscurity to contemplation, from everyday object to symbolic presence. And even now, its story does not close, because as long as time continues and people continue to look closely, the penny will remain open to interpretation, carrying forward its silent invitation to be understood. As this long journey finally reaches its closing moment, the 1995 D1 coin stands exactly where it began, small, simple, and unassuming, yet now surrounded by layers of meaning that were invisible at first glance. Nothing about its size has changed, nothing about its metal has transformed, and yet everything about how it is understood feels different. This is the quiet power of time and attention working together. The penny does not need to prove itself. It does not demand belief or recognition. It exists, patiently, carrying the weight of every hand that held it, every pocket it rested in, every year it survived. What once felt ordinary now feels intentional, as if history itself chose this simple object to remind us that importance is often discovered, not declared. By now it becomes clear that the idea of value, whether $1 or $98 million, is only one chapter in a much larger story. Numbers rise and fall, markets shift, opinions change, but meaning continues to grow. The 1995 D penny teaches that value is not fixed in metal, but formed through time, memory, curiosity, and belief. It shows how the smallest things can carry the longest echoes. In the end, the true legacy of this coin is not whether it ever reaches legendary prices, but that it invites people to slow down and look closer. It turns everyday observation into exploration. It transforms a moment of spare change into a moment of reflection. That transformation is rare, and it is powerful. The penny remains what it has always been, a single cent, yet for those who understand its journey, it becomes something far greater. It becomes a symbol of patience, of overlooked potential, of history quietly waiting to be recognized. And as long as there are people willing to look closely, to question, and to imagine, the story of the 1995 D1 coin will never truly end.